Welcome to the Honest Hour. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and the founder of MOT Media. We also have a bunch of other live streams going on as well. So now we're going live from Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff because our stream, as you guys may know, has been suspended from TikTok for a while. So we have to wait until the 24th until we can start going live on TikTok. So until then, we're going to be going live everywhere else, everywhere that we can. And then we'll try to incorporate Facebook and Instagram into our live streaming process as well. But yeah, what's going on, Shane? I see you in there. Hope you're doing well, brother. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. One of the first things that I want to mention, well, actually, one of the first things that I do want to mention aside from the news is to be sure to check out the TikTok MOT Media. That is the triple backup account that we have. We're at 934 right now. I was hoping to get to 1,000 by the end of today, so that way we would have enough people to go live on TikTok. But it is what it is. But aside from that, we have MOT News, which has 7,200, and then MOT Today, which has 38,000. So be sure to follow those two things on TikTok as well. We can go live from all of them, but we're just suspended from two of them, and we have to build up other accounts and MOT Sports as well. What's going on, man? What's going on? I hope you're doing well. We got a comment section. We got a comment here on YouTube. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, so just be sure to check all that stuff out because we keep getting banned because it's my fault. Nobody else's fault on the team. I can't blame Nick or James. It's definitely all me. I get a little too provocative and riled up. And yeah, so here we go. Let's jump right into it. So in Berlin, the deputy mayor wants to force everybody to buy monthly public transportation passes, even if they don't use it. And the main reason that they say they want to do this is to alleviate inflation. When in reality, once you get far enough into the article, you actually see the real reason is to curb car usage. That's the big reason here. To get people to start using public transportation and give up their private vehicles. It sounds like this grand conspiracy. What's going on, Project Two Door? Oh, that's Alex Skibiak, I believe. What's going on, brother? I hope you're doing well. So right here, hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're doing well. I see you got some kids now. That's awesome. I have kids as well. Got twin daughters and one on the way. So very exciting. So yeah, over in Berlin, their deputy minister is attempting to get everybody to buy a monthly transport ticket. And this is in the main hopes of curbing car usage. And like I was saying, this sounds like this grand conspiracy. It sounds insane, but it is not insane whatsoever because there's been this plan for quite some time. I believe it's called Agenda 30 or 21. Agenda 21, I believe. And they want to get rid of all public transportation. These are the governments across the world, specifically the Western governments. You guys can look it up for yourself, do some research. It's all written, it's all documented. They want to eliminate all private transport and make it so you can only travel on public transportation. Fact. And, a lot of people aren't aware of that. And so this is where they want us to be heading, but it's not working very well because as we see in Germany, Netherlands, Austria, I believe, they're now resorting back to coal. They're now going back to coal because Russia is like, yo, you want to impose sanctions on us? We're not going to supply you gas then. That's cool. We're still over here getting filthy rich off of China and India, becoming the top producers, overtaking Saudi Arabia in oil production, etc. So they're getting rich. They're fat on the hog. Everybody else in Europe is suffering. It's going to be a very, very harsh winter for them as well. And, they're going back to coal. So they had to go back to coal. And we're going to keep seeing this regression because this green agenda is not really going to work. It will work in part. I do believe in solar panels and being able to be self-sufficient in some regards using quote unquote renewable energy. But one thing that we don't even know is what the heck oil is to begin with, right? We demonize oil, but it's definitely not coming from fossils. That's insane. That's literally insane. But it may be coming from bacteria. I've heard a theory that oil is coming is it's like alive and it's like it's bacteria essentially. And you've also heard stories of people who work in oil fields. They go out, tap a drill, they drill, they find oil, they extract it for like 20 years, and then they think that it's empty, but then they come back, a decade or two later to find that the oil drill that they had previously, which was empty, is now filled with oil again. So who knows? Maybe oil is renewable energy. Yes, sir. Daughter and son. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing as well. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. Kids are a blessing. They really are. So, yeah, that's what's going on right there in Berlin. This is going to be taking place across the nations, I believe. Some kind of Hunger Game situation, some type of Brave New World situation. But nothing to be fearful of because, like I said, I don't think that they're going to have much success implementing these plans. They're already failing. They're already not working. So it is what it is. But it's definitely something to be aware of for sure. Now, let's talk about something else here because we mentioned what was going on in Ukraine. Not Ukraine. We mentioned what was going on in Germany, in Berlin, Austria, bringing back coal because of Russian imposed sanctions. Well, here's something that's really important to know. The fact that you have former U.S. Colonels in the army coming out and stating that, Ukraine has lost the war. Ukraine has lost the war and the West is doubling down. Now, you may be asking, why is the West doubling down? Why would they want to keep doubling down if they've lost? Well, it's very simple because they want direct conflict with Russia. And then you may ask, why do they want direct conflict with Russia? What benefit does it have for anybody if the United States and the West gets involved with this war? Well, very simple. They can continuously print money in war. It'll help them sort of escape the economic collapse. Not that they will escape the economic collapse, but it'll alleviate some of that pain and cause some distractions. But ultimately, it won't be good for anybody. But yes, this is a major thing here. I mean, you have on a daily basis, Ukrainians are losing anywhere from 500 to 1,000 dead and wounded soldiers that are, they're effectively unable to fight ever again. And Russia controls territory that is responsible for roughly 80% of Ukraine's gross national product. So Russia went in there. The only reason Russia went in there is because NATO started approaching them and was like, we're going to be teaming up with your neighbors. And Russia was like, we don't want that. We had an agreement since like 30 years ago that you wouldn't do this. And yet you keep doing it. And Russia then retaliated in the fashion that we're seeing right now. And they're actually doing it very strategically and patiently as well. They're not going crazy because you have Lithuania right now restricting trains to go into Kaliningrad or whatever it's called, which is a Russian territory located in between Belarus and Lithuania. Belarus is letting the trains come through. Lithuania is like, well, you see, their foreign minister said, well, it's not really up to us. It's the EU's decision. The EU said to do this. We had to do this. And it's because the West wants war with Russia. And they want war with Russia to alleviate some of the economic pain that is being felt and start World War III. But arguably, World War III has already started. And we are feeling the beginning effects of that. And this is why it's important, as we've been talking about for quite some time, to localize your supply chains because the global supply chain system is collapsing. And it's going to be harder and harder to get stuff across from China and Russia. And it's going to be very noticeable, especially amongst the Pride movement, if you catch my drift, because all of their hormone pills comes from China and Israel. So once you put sanctions on America, which China is going to do. I guarantee it. I'm willing to bet money on it, as will Russia. I bet you that they both will implement um, sanctions. So give me a second here. It looks like we got some. I can't see comments in here on Facebook. Says, all right, all right. So we got, looks like Gordon, man. Yeah, dude. What's going on, Gordon? I hope you're doing well, brother. I hope you're doing really well. Um, I see you've been sober, that you're trying to get sober, which is awesome. It's awesome. So much respect for that. But yeah, you have this issue that's going to be really noticeable amongst the Pride movement because they won't be able to get their pills to remain in their insanity. Fact, because the sanctions will be imposed on America by China, I think, and by Russia. You know, China and Russia aren't even retaliating in a major way against the United States yet. Just wait until they do. I've been saying this for a while that the United States will have sanctions imposed on them because we're losing our dominance across the world. We just are. We're no longer as strong as we used to be. And many people don't want to accept that. And it's insane that we think that we can even compete with Russia. Russia definitely has a stronger land based military than we do, yet we're super delusional. We're like way too delusional. And yeah, it's really bad for us. It really is. You know, maybe on the sea we're stronger, but even then, I mean, the Navy's gone completely, pride, if you get what I'm saying. They've gone completely that route, and so is the Marines, so is a bunch of other branches in the military, and it just shows you that we are in a declining empire. And I heard an interesting theory the other day that we're going to get a lot of POCs in the military, and we're going to keep training, keep teaching them the CRT, the critical race theory, and giving a real hatred for Caucasian individuals. And this will allow them to go over and fight Russia with much vigor because Russia's what? White, and then they're persons of color. And you then brainwash them with the CRT bull crap and, the homophobia bull crap and things of that nature. And you then have a army that will go over there and do what they do with little to no remorse. That's an interesting theory I heard, which definitely might be the case. I definitely don't take it out of the realm of possibilities because we just see the brainwashing that's taking place right now. I mean, there's a lot of European white kids, if you will, that are beginning to hate themselves because they are white. It's really disgusting, which is why you should take your kids out of public schools to begin with, even private schools. You should take them out of that as well. You should be homeschooling your children. I think that's every parent's responsibility is to homeschool. And if you're not homeschooling, in a way, you are failing as a parent. You're not doing your job to the best of your ability. I get it. Everybody's circumstances is a little bit different, but I am a firm believer that you should make sacrifices for your children. That way they have a better life tomorrow and they have a better education. I mean, why would you want, if you believe in these shooting events that take place, if you believe that they're true and all the narrative is factual and there's never once been a false flag tied to it and there's just 100% factual, if you believe that, why then would you keep sending your children to those places where they essentially go to get slaughtered? And it just increasingly takes place. Why would you want to keep sending your children there? And then for the other people who may be a little more skeptical, and they're definitely against the CRT, and they're definitely against grooming, and they're definitely against the Pride movement, why would you send your kids to public school then? Why? Because that's what they're being forced to have to teach. You do know that, right? Like the Biden administration has made it so, well, they're working on making it so that if you do not have transgender bathrooms, if you do not allow for transgenderism in your bathrooms, you no longer get money for food to schools. Fact. Nobody wants to talk about that. These are things that you're not going to hear from the mainstream media which is why you have to follow sources like us. Everything that I'm telling, like right now, you're not going to hear this in the mainstream media. Pretty much everything I'm telling you. Another thing that you won't hear in the mainstream media is not only is Lithuania being tied into this mess to bring Russia into direct conflict with the West, but Israel has just bombed a Damascus airport in Syria that is a civilian airport. So a civilian airport, not military airports, but a civilian airport. And the reason they did this is because Russia is allies with Syria, and Syria has received much support from Russia militarily. And all they're doing, the West, is poking the bear, trying to get Russia to attack them. That's what they're trying to do. And Putin is much too smart to do so, at least as of now. And he's much too strategic to do so because the ruble's at an all-time high. It's like at a 7-year high. Oil is, they're booming, on the oil front. I mean, it just makes no sense why Russia would throw everything that they have away right now. I mean, they are winning on so many fronts. And it's going to inspire the Chinese to take over Taiwan because the American empire, the American control over global politics is diminishing greatly. And China and Russia are going to be picking it back up, which will be a good thing because we have to remember George Soros has stated Russia and China are the greatest threats to his open society. And for those of you that are unaware of what the open society is, the open society is a movement, is an organization rather, that is established to dismantle borders and allow for a globalist society where there are no borders and there's one world government, one global government. That is what ultimately he is working towards with the open society. And so if China and Russia are the greatest threats to that, that must mean that China and Russia are doing something right. And what China and Russia are doing right is simply standing for nationalism. And nationalism is a beautiful thing. It's actually extremely natural. And it is the best way to govern. If you have a globalist system, well, then you cannot, by definition, have a culture. You have no culture. You have nothing but diversity. And diversity, diverse, which comes from the word, diverse, divide, conquer and divide. This is like the oldest tactic in the book. Everybody knows it. And so having diversity is not your strength. It actually brings more weakness. It actually brings more vulnerabilities than it does strengths and strong characteristics. It truly does, because you can't have any cohesion. Why do you think the Chinese civilization has lasted for 5,000 years? Well, it's lasted for 5,000 years because they are not multicultural. They're not. They're Chinese. And pretty soon we're going to wake up to the idea that, you can't, like the land in which you stand on does not make you a nationality. It doesn't. It doesn't. The Japanese and the Chinese really understand this. We can go over to China and Japan and get our passports, maybe even get our visas and become legal citizens over there or whatever, right? But nobody will ever call us Chinese. Think about how insane that is, that we do that here in America. And this is going to be a reality that comes to the surface in the near future with what's taking place, especially in World War III, which we are in. I'm a firm believer that we are in World War III right now, and a lot of us are not aware of it. But if you pay attention, you know that this is the case. I mean, look at the EU is being told to prepare. Let me pull this up for you guys. For those on Instagram and Facebook, I'll have to read it, but that's okay, because I got a beautiful voice. I got a soothing voice. I don't know if I have a soothing voice. I'm just talking shit right now. So right here's the article. It says EU told to prepare for total Russian gas cutoff. So it says International Energy Agency Chief Faith Birol has warned the EU to be prepared for the possibility of a complete shutdown of Russian gas exports this winter, calling on the blog's members to widen the span of measures aimed at preparing for this scenario. The Financial Times reported Europe should be ready in case Russia is completely cut off. The nearer we are coming to winter, the more we understand Russians' intention. So it isn't Russia's intention to like make them suffer. They're doing it to themselves, and they're just not wanting to accept that it is self-inflicted. I mean, but right now Joe Biden's blaming everything on Putin, from gas prices to even immigration. Yes, mass immigration that's taking place. Joe Biden said that it's Putin's fault. Now, there is a lot of migration taking place over in Eastern Europe, right, with the Ukrainians going over to other countries, neighboring countries. But he quoted that, there's like 100 million migrants taking place right now, immigrants traveling right now. And one big reason for all those people traveling is the fact that that Putin is Mr. Badman. He's Mr. Badman. Hey, buddy, TikTok being a bitch. Yeah, it is. But we're trying to, we have another channel. The backup is almost there. We're at like 934. We literally need like 66 more followers, and then we can do live streams on that. But otherwise, we have to wait until the 24th to use MOT News and MOT Today because we're suspended. We're suspended because I'll be over there just letting loose, as you see, and they don't take too kindly to the words that I speak, and that's okay. That's okay because I get it. They're run by the Chinese, but it is what it is. It's really not that big of a deal. I mean, we just got to keep on working. Just got to keep on building up these backup platforms. And so I was really hoping that we would have the MOT Media bad boy. That's right. Bad boys for life. You know what it is. Play some P. Diddy up in here with, it's not P. Diddy, is it? I don't know. But, yeah, I was really hoping that we would be able to go live on the MOT Media page. But like I said, 66 followers short. Bad boy. That's right. Bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? That's right. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit going on, but those are the main points that I wanted to really talk about today. The fact that we are in World War III currently, I believe. And Russia is definitely winning the war. And I think Russia and China will come out on top in World War III. And that's because the U.S. military, the United States as a whole, doesn't even want to go to war. And so they'll probably have to fake a nuclear bomb. I mean, that's a whole nother thing, right? Like, I don't even know that nuclear weapons are real. I'm not going to make the claim that they're not real, but maybe I have in past streams. But I should be a little more careful as to how I word these things. I'm very skeptical that nuclear weapons are real, and they'll probably have to fake a nuclear attack. That's what I'm thinking, because the U.S. will definitely lose to Russia on the ground. Russia is just too much. They're too much. They're savages. I don't mean that in like a derogatory way or anything. It's just what it is. But yeah, here's one last thing that I'll leave you guys with before I get off of here. So, China is now getting sanctions put on them by Washington. Mr. Joe Biden, pedo Biden, whatever you want to call him. He likes to take showers with his daughter when she was like 8 years old, probably younger, and then wonders why she ends up in a halfway house. Wonders why his son's a crackhead, and his other son's dead. So I know his other son had some kind of medical issue, but still, you can tell You can tell a lot by their fruits, and Joe Biden's fruits are horrible. So anyway, here is this bill right here. So it says bill banning imports from China. Xinjiang region takes effect, and the Xinjiang region is the place where they believe a bunch of Muslims are at, and they're being imprisoned, and there's forced labor, and the Biden administration wants to combat against that, and so this is why he signed the Uyghur Forced Labor Act, Prevention Act. And so there will be U.S. companies that can appeal this ban if they have clear and convincing evidence that their supply chains are free of forced labor. But U.S. officials have said they set a high bar for appeals. And so this is going to cause, I think, huge issues. It's definitely not in the interest of the United States to do something like this. It's extremely hypocritical as well. And I think it's going to have negative effects greatly on U.S. corporations that may be over in China and they may be using quote unquote forced labor, and then you won't be getting those Chinese goods anymore. But I'm not saying that I'm for forced labor or anything, but I don't know that this is really going to do much. And also, something that nobody's talking about is the fact that the State Department wants to have Tom Delaney, I believe is how you pronounce his name, Tom Delaney, to be their chief of staff and assistant. That was in 1992. But this is right here. So Biden's State Department selects BlackRock chairman Tom Donnelly to oversee Chinese relations. And Tom Donnelly is, as I just said, the BlackRock chairman, and BlackRock has a ton of incentives to urge people to invest in Chinese companies. And they even admit that conflict or any kind of strategic conflict with China would be bad for their bottom line. And so if you have their former chairman now coming in to work for the U.S. government, and I'm sure he still has a lot of his wealth tied up in BlackRock, well, you can do the math. It's pretty simple. And so there's obviously other issues in regards to foreign countries invading the United States government. One of the biggest ones, Israeli. Big nose, small hats. But there's a bunch of other ones. I mean, Saudi Arabia is buying a bunch of real estate here. You got the Chinese, obviously. So there's a bunch of other ones. But we are really, really controlled by foreign powers. The United States is. And it's becoming increasingly obvious. And this is what happens with empires. This is how you know empires are at their decline, is when foreign powers come to the pinnacle of the hierarchy and they take it over. And we're just watching essentially the demise of America, which is why here we keep stressing localized supply chains, localized supply chains, localized supply chains, because there are certain areas that are not affected by these kind of wars. Swear to God. Nobody really talks about that. Nobody likes to paint those pictures. Oh, I apologize. Nobody likes to paint those pictures, but it is a reality. I mean, in the Civil War, there were people living during the Civil War who had no clue that the Civil War was taking place. You know, the same way that you can get, nobody finds it, hard to believe, or they definitely buy the stories when the mainstream media is like, oh, there's this Vietnamese person who stayed in the jungle for 40 years because he didn't know the Vietnam War was over, and they had to go get somebody like in the movie Rambo to get him out of the cave and convince him that the war was over, and it had to be somebody that he used to work with. See, when the media tells you that, you're like, oh yeah, I can definitely believe that. But they're not telling you that there are places that are relatively unaffected at all during times of war. Now, it's kind of hard to predict where those places will be, but you can position yourself to be, or to reduce the amount of negative effects war can have. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to follow us everywhere at MOT Media. Give a like, give a thumbs up, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Um, and yeah, so much love. I will see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, have a great night. Peace.